In your stories, do you find your settings are very boring and descriptive and that readers tend to just skip over it and forget it? Well, don't worry. In this tutorial, we're actually going to fix that. We're not only going to make your settings sound more vivid and alive and immerse the reader in the scene, we're going to give you tools and opportunities to add more layering and depth to it. We're going to take the same landscape, but try to set three vastly different moods and atmospheres, and we're going to show the bad telly examples, and then we're going to actually improve on it. It's going to be fun, so let's get started. The house looks scary and dangerous. All right, you know what? This might have been your first draft. You needed to get all the information out, and that's okay. Don't worry about it. But if you're reading on the second draft or more and you're doing your edits and you find this, don't stress. We're going to fix it. So why don't we try something like this? The house loomed in the fog, its tall, shattered windows veiling ghostly shapes within. The air stank of mold drifting out through the gaping doors like a slow, dying breath. So clearly with sensory imagery, I'm using visual, olfactory, tactile. I'm using personification, so the house kind of feels alive. And then that metaphor of death, decay, and abandonment is quite fully there. And the atmosphere, I think you can agree, is very eerie, unsettling, and foreboding. So we're hitting the marks of what we were trying to say in a telly version, that the house looks scary and dangerous, but we're using these variety of details and tools to actually flesh that out and show it. Because as all of these techniques are, we want the reader to stay immersed in your story. So here's the next example. The house looks sad and forgotten. If I was a reader, I would quickly skip over it and feel like the author was just summarizing to me. And there's so many key things we can add here that we haven't yet. So let's do that. House. Yes, it looks sad and forgotten, but why? What are the details that make it seem like such? And imagine paint peeling, making a broken door, the brick being exposed, broken windows, weeds in the yard. Or maybe there's abandoned items outside the house, like a tricycle or a bike, or inside something in there that conveys that there's a rich history of this house, but it's not being told from what it looks like today. So we're going to play on that and try to build up a more richer way to describe this house. So why don't we do this? The paint peeled from the broken welcoming door. A child's rusted tricycle lay tipped over in the yard, half buried by weeds. And let's just add some more auditory here. The silence inside hung heavy. And we can then bring in more of a metaphor. So let's do the contrast of why this house today is so much more sadder than it was or forgotten. So let's bring in that piece. So let's add a metaphor like a pleasant memory that refused to fade, no matter how many years have passed since it was once filled with laughter. So what I like about this is that we are conveying depth and some backstory into the description of the house. It's not just simply a moment in time where it looks sad and forgotten. We're actually using contrast here to show what it is today versus what it was. That's why our pacing, we're allowing for more flowing, longer sentences, because it allows the reader time to digest what you're trying to say and consider the deeper theme. So pacing, when you're describing settings, can also be very effective in conveying the tone or mood that you want the reader to feel, and to add in that layering, more of the backstory or bigger themes that you don't want to just explicitly state. In this case, the house seemed peaceful and welcoming despite being old. Again, that's pretty bland description, but we're going to forgive ourselves because we now are starting to get the tools to fix it. But the cool thing about writing, and especially about settings, is that a setting no longer needs to be about a place. It is a way for an author to build meaning. And the theme here is cycle of life. Yes, things decay, but life can come out of that. And potentially the character is on an emotional journey. Maybe they're very, very thoughtful. Maybe they're undergoing a transformational moment. Maybe you want to foreshadow that transformational moment. And this is a key inflection point for the character where they come upon a house. Maybe that house has deeper meaning for them. Maybe it's a childhood house. Maybe something happened negative there in the past. But when they see the house in a new light, they see the growth out of that. It's a great way then for authors to convey this depth to not only the setting, but to the character, to the story theme, and we can weave those all together just simply by how we write the setting. So there's so many fantastic elements you can do and add for the depth and layering to a simple description. Let's start again thinking more about the contrasts. So, this probably has a cracked roof, but there's sunlight maybe filtering through. Or maybe there's dust twinkling in the halls. Or maybe, we talked about weeds before in the previous example, but now let's talk about maybe there's also wildflowers. And maybe those flowers or even trees are growing through the floorboards. And yes, right here, there's empty broken window frames. Or maybe there's a bird there, So that contrast will actually help you convey that same meaning of peaceful and welcomeness despite decay. And that also hints on a larger theme for your book. And you may want to carry that theme throughout your entire story. So let's start actually writing out a potentially good showy example to improve on it. So sunlight spilled through the cracked roof, turning the dust into golden mist. Wildflowers poked through the cracked floorboards, and birds sang from the empty window frames. You don't have to do this every time. Sometimes a tree is just a tree, and a house is just a house. But when you have critical moments in your story and you want to convey mood and foreshadowing and tone and emotional weight, you can actually leverage a setting description to convey that for you. In some degree, a setting can be like a silent narrator, where we're not telling the reader what to think or feel, but we're setting up these conditions, providing these details and contrasts so that the reader will infer and figure it out themselves. And I think that's what's going to make your writing so much more richer and your readers' experiences so much more exciting when they're going to read your stories and they know they're going to be immersed in this fantastic world with great characters, great settings, and they can feel like they're part of that character's journey and they're there in the moment. So there's a lot more I can share about settings, and I can do so in later videos. If you happen to like this video, click like and subscribe. Happy writing.